Hey, this is Hayden Gillum. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe.
It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. The round, MotoAmerica Superbikes at Road Atlanta from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for our fourth round of 10 for 2022. We're at Road America. Welcome everyone to the Supersport Show. My name is Greg White. I'm standing alongside two-time champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, as it sits, Josh Herrin, who's won 3 races so far this season, has definitely been the standout, the veteran on the Ducati, but he had to bounce back in race number 2 at VIR to get that third win.
Yeah, after he truly dominated in Atlanta, winning both those races with relative ease. He had a little competition in the first race at VIR, ended up finishing 4th, but the second day he came back to a colossal battle with Josh Hayes in race 2 at VIR, and these guys went back and forth. Greg, I can't remember the number that you had written down. I think it was 18 passes for the lead between these two guys. 18. Former teammates, both former Superbike champions, obviously, and they put on quite a show for us.
Yeah, and it was a great race, and of course Josh Hayes, just a one-off appearance. He might be doing a couple more this year, but he's not racing here at Road America. So Josh Herrin, the number 2, getting it done. But Jay, let's talk about a rider who is on the come-up. This guy, Ty Scott, look at his resume and what he's been able to accomplish coming off of that SportBikeTrackGear.com Junior Cup Championship. He is a ripper. No,
there's no question about it. And we saw him do some dirt track at the beginning of the year. Had some discussions with him already this weekend. He is starting on pole today. First time in his career in Supersport. So expect big things. I really do believe the hype on this young man.
And Tyler Scott is on the grid right now for the start of this race. And he's with the third member of our broadcast team, Anna Lopa.
Greg, Jason, We've seen Tyler Scott make some big progress so far throughout this season. First pole position for you, Tyler. How important is it for you to take advantage of this grid position and get a good launch into that first turn?
Yeah, definitely. We're a bit closer than everyone else into the first corner, so it's really important to get a really good start and base the whole race off of that.
Well, best of luck out there. And let's move on down the grid and see if we can't get a word with Josh Herrin here pretty quickly. It looks like he's just finishing up some stretches. Josh, do you have a second for a word? Front row start for you. You've got a 750 just to your left. You've got one behind you, and you've got quite a few other fast guys out here. What is the most important thing for you to focus on in these opening laps?
I think just trying to get a good jump, obviously. Try and get out there and maybe get, 3 of us to pull away from that group. And just do my best to try and, create a gap wherever I can. Straightaways are going to be a little hard here, I think, this weekend. But just got to, work the infield really hard and try and get a little gap, like I said. V2's been running strong all weekend, and hopefully we can have a weekend like we've had the last couple.
Sounds like Josh Herrin's got a plan, guys.
Yeah, he definitely has a plan, and that plan is to try to check out. I'm not sure if the rest of the field wants him to do it, but they got to get around this awesome 4-mile road course built in 1955, Jay.
Got to say it's the favorite on our calendar anyways. Road America, big long front straightaway into turn 1. Drafting opportunities from turn 3 down to turn 5, and then you kind of have what we call the infield a little bit. Turn 5 uphill into a tricky turn 6, then down through the famous carousel over in turn 9 and 10, Greg, into a chicane that then leads you down towards Canada Corner. Another big passing opportunity after some heavy drafting into turn 12. Back uphill through a tricky turn 13. Then you got to come up with your strategies. Do you go past somebody going into 14, or do you have the motor to draft back past them before you get to that checkered flag?
All right, love that aerial support provided by Lucas Oil Helicopter of this racetrack. We're going to step away. When we get back, we're about 6 minutes from the race start. Mesa doing really well, and he is fast today. Can he get it done?
Robbie Floyd and Roger Hayden here with you. We get to talk between some of these television breaks, Roger, about some of the things we see and expect to see. And in this race, they showed Stefano Mesa there at the end, the success he's had in the Supersport class here, 21 with a Supersport victory, a couple of wins for Stefano Mesa. Probably that outsider trying to look into the mix, and he knows what this track is. He just come off from the Yuasa Stock 1000s.
Yeah, and the Stock 1000 race, we've seen him a lot closer to the front. Again, kind of looked like the Stefano for last year, and he won here last year. So I think that gives him some confidence. What I'm really looking forward to to seeing is we're really going to see how these new rules shake out in this race with these long straightaways with the Suzuki, Ducati, Yamaha, Kawasaki. Top four.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored
Absolutely.
by
This should be a
Dunlop,
horsepower type
the official
track, you would
tire of
think.
the
I mean, it's got that
MotoAmerica
long,
Championship Series.
grunty front straight.
And
I mean,
by
how will that power
Geico,
play?
where
Do you
15
hold back
minutes
and
could
do
save you
draft if you
15%
know you
or
got the
more on your
HP?
car or
That's
motorcycle.
something we're going to look for. Those conventional 600s might have their work cut out for them. I know even talking to Josh Hayes, he felt like he may not have had the power of that Ducati or that GSXR, but he said he was going to be that one just buzzing around him, trying to keep him busy all the time. Who's going to be that one that keeps him
15%
busy?
or more
Ben
on
Smith,
your car or
Stefano
motorcycle
Mesa,
insurance.
Kevin Olmedo, we're seeing him a little faster. Could it be Rocco Landers? Didn't necessarily qualify the best, top 7. The one thing that we need to see out of Rocco is being fast from the start, and also tire selection. Rocco doing something different than pretty much the rest of the field, going for a soft rear, a little bit firmer than everybody else. Why would he do that instead of going the extra soft route like everybody else is doing?
Obviously, I guess tire wear. He can't make the tire last the whole race, so he needs a stiffer option, or maybe he's faster on it. He's always kind of ran the harder tire.
Right.
He's kind of had whatever his riding style to set up or something, because he's always kind of had tire wear issues. But if he gets a good start, he can definitely hang in there. The top 6-7 guys are all within a second. I think a lot of people's game plan, like a Josh Herron, is going to try to get away. And I think Tyler Scott is just going to try to just continue to learn. He's so new to the series, and he's going to learn how these bikes are in the draft. It's going to be different than what it's like in the draft on the Junior Cup, because the speeds are going to be a lot higher. So he's going to get used to that. And also, I think Sam Lockoff, even though he's not on the front row, I think he'll be there in the race.
I absolutely think so as well. And Sam Lockoff with that super soft front tire, when most of those front 2 rows were using extra soft in the front. Choosing a different option front, that's more about the feel and how the rider likes to feel in the handlebars and the pressure against the ground.
Yeah, just whatever there's a couple bumps in the carousel, so stiffer, softer, whatever makes you feel better with the bumps.
Either way, a lot of stories to talk about. We're about to hit the racing for the first time in the Supersports coming up. Listen to the guys next door.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Back here at Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and a good look at the straightaway, which is not flat by any stretch of the imagination.
That was a really good view of that, because behind all the 5 or 6 riders you saw there, it is definitely kind of an uphill start as you see Ty Scott, Herron, and Benjamin Smith on the front row. Next, we're going to have Mesa, Sam Lockoff, and Kevin Olmedo in row number 2. A little further back, Rocco Landers, Jarrett Nassani, Luke Power on a GSXR 750 now, as well as Luke, Jason Farrell, Diego Perez, and Carl Soltis. Back a little further, LaRoche, Grant, Thermiotis. Then we're going to have Chad Lewin, Justin Jones, and Blake Holt. Erstein, Tropkov, and Zaragoza. Then we have Schweiger, Skalf, and Tony Blackall.
8 rows of riders in this one, Jason. It's a packed grid.
It is.
But Tyler Scott, in his first pole position of his young career and only his 3rd race in Supersport, incredible to do it here as well. Now, this is the next generation bike, meaning the GSXR 750, which has been around for quite a while. Gets an upgrade to throttle by wire, which allows the FIM, MotoAmerica, or AMA, FIM North American, and the FIM itself to control the power delivery of the GSXR 750 versus the Ducati 955 twin versus a Yamaha R6. Your inline 4-cylinder 599cc machine, your Kawasaki ZX6R that Stefano Mesa is on. And Jay, you look at the front row, you have Suzuki, Ducati, Yamaha. Second row, you have Kawasaki, Suzuki,
Yamaha.
Or Yamaha, I mean, yeah.
And you know what's funny is earlier on today when we got to the booth, the thing that you showed me with the track map we have 5 sectors here at Road America. And the really interesting thing that you pointed out was in those 5 sectors, we were looking at the top 3 from each sector. And generally, it was always 3 different brands of bikes. Mm-hmm. And so, look, this is new rules for the year in Supersport. I saw Scott Smart walking around earlier on, kind of a guy that obviously helped draw up these rules. I think they've done a really nice job so far. And talking with the different teams and things, I think each one of these bikes has their own advantages in certain spots. But look, we got, like you say, Greg, we got 4 bikes, all different from first to fourth, lining up for this race. And when we came here to Road America, I think everybody was waiting just to see what was going to happen. And of course, we still have 2 races to run to really get a better feel. But I think that they've done a nice job of supplementing these rules and doing a good job with them to start with.
I think a lot of people focus on just top speed, on horsepower, what's it going top speed, and that's the way that you compare bikes, but it's not. There's a lot of other factors that are involved, and of course, what's on the motorcycle and sort of data acquisition that the FIM and MotoAmerica look at to balance these machines. It's very sophisticated, and I think that they've done, like you said, Jason, a really good job of balancing the performance of these motorcycles, and you can see it in those sector splits. Yeah. The Yamaha R6, which is a very sorted motorcycle over the years, really works well in the section, say, split 2 and 3, where you're going to have more riding than you need top speed or acceleration. Yeah, it's interesting. And listening to this man earlier talking about maybe 3 guys being up at the front, I think that we could see as many as 6 or 7 at the beginning, and then we'll see if things get sorted. You know, it's really a perfect day right now. Yesterday it was blowing probably 30 mile an hour. It's completely different conditions today. It's a little bit cooler. There's not as much wind out there, and you can see, Greg, this place is packed with people. Tens of thousands of fans showed up to watch racing today, with an expectation of even more on Sunday's race day. So race number 1 for Supersport, getting ready to get underway. 11 laps scheduled in this one. Upper left part of your screen when those lights go out. It's the mad dash to turn 1. Here we go. That was a quick one. Josh Herrin didn't get a great start. The normal jackrabbit we see, it was almost like he was caught off guard. But Tyler Scott, your pole sitter, your 16-year-old, he's leading on that Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki. And he's got his teammate, Sam Lockoff, who jumps in behind him. Looked like Josh was a little bit distracted as you see somebody go off in turn 1 there. But Josh was a little bit distracted by trying to get a tear-off pulled off of his bag. Oh, it's Ben Smith. Ben Smith, and I believe, is that Jason Farrell? Yeah, the 85, Jason Farrell, local hot shot Farrell. So they're down and out, and that is upsetting for Benjamin Smith. He was on the front row, 3rd. And the fastest of the Yamahas. As we streak down through turn number 4, heading down into turn number 5, the fastest part of this racetrack, and it's Ty Scott leading the way. Josh Herrin in second. He got around the 44 of Sam Lockoff. So it's that Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki GSXR 750 leading from that Ducati 955 Panigale V2 on the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York machine. What a great first lap Ty Scott is thrown in here, and that's going to be the thing, Greg. Look, they've already started to separate, so Herrin actually knew something that obviously we didn't. I think Ben Smith was probably that 3rd rider he was thinking that could get away, but right now it's 2 riders making the break. It's the young man Ty Scott, who started from pole position, and Josh Herrin, who's recovered. You know, Greg, he came to the line, and every now and then, if you have a tear-off that doesn't feel like it's quite on tight enough, you want to try to get it off before the start of the race. He couldn't get that first tear-off, and he was able to get the second one, so he's got 2 less tear-offs. You can see Farrell out here a little bit wide on the Kawasaki, and Ben Smith underneath him. And let's see what happens here between these 2. You can see there's contact made. Ben Smith looks like he kind of just loses the front end, and Farrell is on the outside of him with nowhere to go and gets kind of taken out there. Really an interesting, kind of a strange crash almost. Didn't look like Ben was doing anything, or Jason definitely wasn't doing anything. Lockoff goes wide out of Canada corner. Big mistake. Big mistake for Lockoff. So things getting hectic behind these 2 for the battle for 3rd place as Lockoff makes a mistake. And talking to Josh Herrin, Jason, before this race, he was thinking exactly about this scenario. Actually, he thought there might be 2 or 3 more riders in it. As they come up to the line from a dead stop, it's going to be the number 70. And it's all about that Ducati. What does Josh Herrin have in terms of top speed? He mentioned it in his interview with Hannah that he didn't feel like he had the top speed to contend with it. And Josh is really fast through the infield, but he's right there, Jay. And this strategy for the number 2, your championship points leader, is starting to play out the way he wants it to. And the one thing I can tell you, though, is that the Ducati, the V2 specifically, is pretty easy on rear tires. One of the easiest on the tires in this class. Well, I think that one of the things that Herrin will want to do is he's done a nice job of pulling himself up to the back of Ty Scott, is if there's a way that he can get by him going down into turn 5. And this lap, it doesn't look like he is close enough to do so. He's braking really deep because he's a little bit tighter, opening it a little bit tighter, which allows him to kind of go back over to the right, braking while the bike's upright a little longer. But Ty Scott, what a drive
out of 5 he gets. You can see that battle for third behind between Mesa. Luke Power is up there. Kevin Olmedo is up there. Lockoff made a pretty big mistake, Greg, and he was a little bit further back there. Just looking to see what his gap is to those guys here. Almost a full second he lost. Yeah, you can see Lockoff back there with Diego. But here's that battle for third. Mesa on a 636. Luke Power from Australia on a new GSX-R 750. For him, new 750. And then you got Olmedo there on the R6 running in 5th place.
Well, out front is Tyler Scott. The 16-year-old rookie is getting the job done. Hannah, as he goes under attack from Josh Herron. So into the chicane, and Herron will take over that spot for now. But Ty Scott has a look over his shoulder, Hannah.
And Greg, talking to Tyler Scott, he said they had the opportunity to test at Pittsburgh because he doesn't have a lot of time on this bike. They check some boxes and he has a much better understanding of how the bike moves around underneath him. He said he thinks he has the pace to win. On paper, he certainly has the times, but he knows that anything can happen in the race. As you heard at the starting grid, he said the opening laps being really strong will determine the rest of the race, but overall he thinks he has great pace and had a great feeling in Q2, so we'll see how this plays out here as he hunts down Josh Herron.
I think the most interesting thing that we're going to see now is if this GSX-R 750 has the power, obviously, to try to get back past this Ducati, and if Ty Scott at 16 years old is going to be holding his cards a little bit closer to his chest. Let's see what he does here. He's right in the draft of the Ducati, Greg, and he's not trying to go by. He is literally sitting there. A little bit of a test run already, and this is what I mean about this 16-year-old. He's not necessarily going to show all his cards. He's going to follow Herron through here. Now we're going to see if he has the same patience to do it going down into turn 5. See if he'll have the pace to go by, and if he doesn't, he's trying to check to see if he can run with Herron through the infield.
It's a very interesting strategy as we have cloud cover here in Elkhart Lake, and the temperature is relatively cool. You're not getting a ton of heat into the racetrack. And Jay, here's another look at the pass, and we're going to talk more about the tire situation as you analyze this.
Boy, you can see as soon as Ty Scott went to the right and opened that door, Herron was through it. There was not even a doubt that Herron was there. Both those riders are about 3/4 track on their exits of the carousel, and as they came down, it put him tight going into the chicane. And as soon as Ty Scott opened that up, Herron went through. Now, this is going to be the interesting part. Ty Scott is playing the patience game. He had an opportunity to draft by down the front. He had an opportunity to draft by down the back straightaway. He chose not to, which means this young man has a lot of confidence as you see him getting into turn 8, relatively deep there. He has a lot of confidence, Craig, that he can run through this infield section with Herron as they get into the carousel. Another important place that your motorcycle has to work well. You're on the edge of the tire forever through this corner. You can see both those bikes look pretty solid, but Herron he'll be on to this. Once he sees that Ty Scott's sitting there and not planning to pass him down the straightaways, he'll realize that he's the guy out front pushing all that air.
So Josh Herron came across the stripe at a 220.234. Qualified at a 219.4, so they're on a very fast pace. Of course, you can do a lot more in qualifying when you have a low fuel load and can put a new tire on. Into Canada corner go our leaders. Herron leading by a couple bike lengths, and an attack by Mesa.
Goes by Power. Power had made that pass, and Mesa goes up underneath him. And what a tremendous opportunity this is for the number 68 of Luke Power. And he's a little bit closer to the front, obviously, this weekend, and now he's able to run with Mesa. What I'm interested to see here is these guys haven't really let those two leaders get any further away this lap. In fact, Stefano Mesa was the quickest rider through split 4. So let's look and see what the lap times are. 220.9, 220.9. The guys behind Greg, all quicker, all the way back to Lockoff and Rocco Landers. All of the next 5 riders were quicker than the 2 leaders.
Let's get down to Hannah with more on Mesa.
We've seen Stefano Mesa in our Supersport class before. He hasn't made an appearance in quite a while. He is pulling double duty this weekend thanks to the help of Quasimodo, Latin Wii, and Alpha Omega stepped up big in order to make this possible for him. He did have to add 17 pounds to this motorcycle for next gen rules, which is different than last year. Other than that, the bike is pretty much the same. They haven't changed the throttle bodies or cams, same exact bike as last year. They made some suspension changes and worked on the front end, and it felt a little bit better this morning, but overall he's just trying to get used to that added weight because he feels the difference.
Oh, Mesa's off the track, out of turn 5. He's off the track, back on the track, but he's let Luke Power and Olmedo go by. So now Mesa's going to have a little bit of ground to make up, Greg, and he's fallen back into the clutches there. You can see of Lockoff and Rocco Landers who are trying to get back on terms with these guys. Landers is a little bit further back through the infield section.
Mesa's got some work to do. Luke Power on that 3D Motorsports LLC GSXR, the 750 for this weekend. He's listed in Blanchard, Oklahoma, but we know that's where he's just staying here in the U.S. as he's a young Australian who's over here trying to cut his teeth, as many Australians have in the United States in years past. But Josh Herrin continues to lead the way over Tyler Scott as that chess game starts to play itself out. This is the battle for third. 68 Power and Kevin Olmedo on that N2 Racing bobblehead moto Yamaha R6, a big change for the El Salvadorian.
You can see he was able to get himself up underneath. Stefano Mesa was able to get underneath Luke Power, and as he comes out of here, he's going to get out over the rumble strips and gets a little bit close to the edge, and now he's just riding it in the grass, Greg, and gets it up that hill. Still able to hold that spot, and Mesa will do a nice job of closing that gap back down. Lockoff here is the one in 6th place. He needs to get up with these 3 guys to try to get in the draft as they come out of that last corner and head up that big long front straightaway. This is all uphill right here as you come up over the top of a crest under that little bridge. Then it flattens out just ever so slightly.
Great shots. Aerial support provided by Lucas Oil Helicopter. Thanks for that. Nothing better at this fast racetrack than getting that overhead shot.
You saw Mesa did make a draft. He drafted past Olmedo, but Olmedo let go of the levers. They got down into turn number 1. Mesa cuts it back up underneath him and will have the position back as they go down into turn 3. What they don't want to do is mess each other up too much, because Luke Power will start to drift away from these 3 riders if they keep doing that. Look at Ty Scott, Craig. He's literally just sitting there. He knows that he can't win the race on lap 5 or 6. You know, he's going to just sit there right on the back of Herrin and let Herrin see +0 on his board every single lap by.
Now, Herrin definitely looks like he's got a little bit more English into that Ducati than right now. You know, Ty Scott, he looks very comfortable on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki. This is the scenario that Josh Herrin was thinking about. The question is, Herrin's pretty confident about the performance of the rear tire, Jason, as we get deep into this race. Not sure about Ty Scott. And then a chance to talk to him about that. Talked to him a lot about, you know, here at the racetrack and the difference between obviously making the big jump from Junior Cup into Super Sport and the difference in speed and how much he enjoyed it. And Hannah mentioned that they went to that test at pit race after VIR. And what's interesting about Ty, Jay, and you know a lot of racers like this, I said, how was the test, Ty? And he said, well, you know, I just like going fast.
Yeah.
And he had to test a lot of parts and a lot of different configurations. I talked to Robbie Peterson, his crew chief. He said we went short on the wheelbase, we went long on the wheelbase, we went high here, we went low here. We threw everything at him, and it was a proper test for the 16-year-old. And Ty said, yeah, it was okay. I just want to go fast.
Yeah, that knowledge, though, is so great. And he told me before the start of the race, he's like, Jason, if I can lead into turn 5, I'm going to try to break everybody and get away. He led into turn 5 and he couldn't do that. And look at what he's doing now. He's just going to go to school. I mean, he's going to be learning a lot from what Josh Herrin's doing in front of him. And now Herrin's probably sitting there thinking to himself, this kid's not going by me. So he's going to have to start to play this game of what's the most important part for me to do. Because Ty Scott right now, Greg, has the drive. Hannah?
And Jay, I talked to Herrin about his strategy for this. He said he thinks it's going to be really hard to draft and outbreak the 750. He said the bike is really good under initial acceleration, but he needs to get a good drive out of these corners in order not to lose any more time on the 750s. But overall, as Greg was saying, bike feels really good on the brakes, releasing the brakes and carrying that roll speed. So his strategy really was to try and stay out front. We'll see if Tyler Scott makes a move.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. It's definitely going to be a bit of cat and mouse at the front, but when you look back, Greg, Rocco Landers just went 220.2. So he'd obviously made a mistake a couple of laps and had that gap created. Now he has creeped himself up. He's the 5th rider in your screen there as Rocco Landers is trying to close that gap to the other 2 in front of him. Mesa had taken to the front of this group. Luke Power now goes up underneath him as they go down into turn 5. And you can see Lockoff now has firmly got himself in the middle of it. But how about the 97 GW? You can see a little bit of a mistake there for Rocco in turn 5. He's trying to make up that time on the brakes. It's a hard way to ride, but if you can keep trying to close that gap, and then you can get in the draft and it becomes easy. It's almost, when you're in Rocco's position right now, if he can get to those guys, you can almost take a little bit of a breath and go, okay, I'm here now. But those little mistakes in the turn 5 are very costly.
Yeah, and although this is only an 11-lap race, with the size of this racetrack being 4 miles long, which is what really MotoAmerica bases these races off of. You got to really think, how many corners do I have left to make the move? Josh Herrin leads the way over Tyler Scott. Mesa in third spot. Luke Power in the mix as well. Now, talking about Josh Herrin, when I spoke with him earlier today, I said, moving forward, Josh, if you look beyond this race weekend, who are you looking at? He said, look, I understand that Tyler Scott is a very talented motorcycle racer. He's a rookie. He's 16 years old. He's just getting going, and he's already this fast. So Josh's urgency is to win these races as many possible, because he feels as the season rolls on and as Tyler Scott gets better and better, that's going to be the fly in the ointment for the Warhorse HSBK Ducati New York rider Josh Herrin. And that to me shows veteran thinking, Jason,
Absolutely.
as you look down further this season.
Yeah, Josh was 16 one time and coming through the pack and having to race against veterans as well. And so he learned from, you know, we said at the beginning of the telecast, he was with Josh Hayes and was able to ride with him on superbikes and learning as much as he can. But he realizes and respects the fact that that kid there in second place is Luke Power has gone 220 flat. Fastest lap of the race for the guy in third. These two guys, Greg, are about 6/10 slower than the guys behind him. So when you start to look at it, Herrin right now is doing all of the donkey work out front, putting in the pace, opening up that big gap. These guys here, Mesa is going with Luke Power, trying to get that gap closed down. As you can see the 636 in the draft of that GSX-R 750. Mesa's able to get into the draft, pull up alongside and past that GSX-R 750. Now Power is going to be following Mesa into 5. Sam Lockoff there as well. So Mesa's done a nice job of recovering, and he's going to know another veteran with a young guy, right? We got Mesa there, we got Luke Power there, and then Lockoff just behind. Mesa's not seeing those guys get away at the front, and so he's still going to be hungry to try to chase them down.
Great set of races we have for the lead and for the final spot on the podium here in Supersport race number 1. With about 4.5 laps to go, it's Josh Herrin leading the way after Luke Power just sets the fastest lap of the race at that 220 flat. Jason, I mean, that's what happens oftentimes in these races is you get that draft. Luke Power qualified at a 221.7. So Luke Power just went 1.7 seconds faster than he qualified. Boy, the Australian's really having a good day.
He is. And you know, the thing is that what's keeping these guys out in front is they're not messing with each other. I mean, I think Ty Scott realizes that if he starts to get into a battle with Josh is going to try to pass him back, as we saw with the race at VIR. Herrin's going to always be wanting to lead, always get back out into the front. This is causing Herrin to maybe think about some things a little bit now, because he realizes that he's got +0 on his board every time by. So he knows he's kind of the sitting duck sitting there. But I think if these guys were to engage more, those other guys might catch up even sooner.
But see, the one thing about Josh Herrin, the 32-year-old, so he's literally double the age of the rider Ty Scott he's racing with. If you look at Josh Herrin at this point, Jason, you have to say to yourself, is Josh riding as hard as he possibly can, or is he keeping something in the tank in case Ty Scott starts to attack? I think that Herrin's holding a little bit back.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, right now, what did Herrin qualify at? Greg, what was the actual number?
19.4.
So he's basically at a 20.9. Again, the guys behind, they're 1.8 back now on the screen. 220.3 from Mesa that time through. 220.5 for Almeida. And how about Rocco at a 220 flat as well? Rocco is, I think he's on the back of Almeida. I can't see it. Yeah, he is. Rocco's got through. So Rocco has actually passed Almeida down into turn 1. The 97 is on the charge. Now he's got to get up to this next 3 guys and start drafting and getting in with them.
Luke Power goes around Mesa. So here comes the leading Yamaha on the course. So we have Ducati, Suzuki's, Kawasaki's, and then Rocco Landers took over the spot as your first Yamaha R6. I just like what I'm seeing from Luke Power too.
Yeah, he's done a nice job of just keeping himself in this mix, riding with guys that maybe he hasn't ridden with before. And obviously he's got on this 750 this weekend and feels very comfortable on it. You know, it'll be interesting to see if Herrin has more to give, and I think that you're going to be able to tell that on the last lap. When we get the white flag here in about 3.5 laps to go, if Ty Scott chooses to follow him down into turn 5, we'll be able to see if Herrin can pull the pin and try to get through from about this section on and create a big enough gap to not get drafted at the line. Here's that next 5 going down out of the chicane into Canada corner as well.
And you can see how the brakes bunch them up. It's that accordion effect as you slow the motorcycle down and you're the first one into that corner and accelerate out. And that's where we create those gaps.
There was a time, Greg, where you wouldn't have been able to see that. There were trees hanging over the top of the track
there sure
15
were.
years ago or more, and you wouldn't be able to see where, actually how to get down through there from the aerial view. So looks like these guys have stepped it up just a little bit this lap, in the sense that the gap looks a little bigger than 1.8 to me. So I'll have a look at it this time through. There you go.
Yeah, there are times, Jason. Yeah, you can see on the pit board the information. So 20.6, so a couple tenths quicker, just like you saw.
But they're doing something. That last group does something in the last sector, Greg, because they were getting pulled away from it. It basically stayed the same that time, but 1.7 now.
Fastest rider on track was Luke Power at a 20.2.
Yep.
Lockoff still able. Oh, sorry, Rocco Landers
again, 220 flat.
Sheesh.
So he's done 3 of those now, Rocco has, to get under the back of these 3. See if he can get through on Lockoff. As you can see that, Craig, they are definitely closing in. And again, a lot of the passing isn't being done by like stuffing guys down the inside and things. A lot of the passing is being done straightaways and drafting and redrafting. Here's Rocco into 5. Nice work. Gets the bike slowed down. Is able to carry that speed through. But Craig, they're closing in on these 2.
They certainly are.
Are they going to have enough time?
That's really with 2.5 laps to go. I think there's plenty of time to do it. But we keep seeing riders behind him like Mesa, Landers, Olmedo sitting the fastest first sector splits of their race. And you can see that gap is starting to close. And if they don't muck about, if they just, Luke Power up and out of the saddle.
But he's okay. He got the thing back under control. And he's into the clutches a little bit more of lockup now. But I think Luke has the savvy to get himself back to the back of Mesa again. Nothing really lost there.
Yeah, and that's it. It was the corner too. Was that something hanging off of Power's bike?
I didn't
looks
see.
Like a sticker.
Okay.
Just looks like a sticker. It's on the inside on the bodywork. Yeah, you can see it kind of flapping around there. But it was a left-hand corner where he lost it, not a right-hander. Generally here at Road America, we look at those right-handers because the carousel can really work a tire. So for Luke, that was probably more of a throttle mistake than it is a warning, say, from the rear tire.
Sometimes, too, if you get guys that can work together nicely, Power and Mesa have done a nice job of helping to close this gap up. Mesa needs somebody to kind of draft and redraft off of so that it can continue to close that gap at the front, because they know Mesa, Power, Rocco, maybe not Rocco so much because he's been far back. As you can see, he goes up underneath Lockoff in the last corner. But he sees that Ty Scott's playing the game up there. He's not going past Josh Herron. So that's going to influence these 2 guys behind even more, realizing that if we can kind of stay out of each other's way, draft and redraft and get close, that's what we need to do. Now, Greg, the 2 leaders, 220 flat from both of them. That's the first time we've seen them drop that much in a lap. So there might be something to what you were saying earlier about not showing all their cards.
Yeah, now we're starting to push, as I'm sure they came by the pit board too and said, hey, the gap behind you is starting to shrink. You guys better get moving, because I can guarantee you that Herron and Scott who are leading this battle, or you see the battle behind them, they don't want to even get Mesa, Power, Lockoff, Landers, and Olmedo in the mix, because then things get really mixy and can get totally frantic. Down in turn 5 goes Josh Herron under control. You can see Ty Scott working that.
Luke got in a little deep.
Oh, he did.
It's okay,
all
though.
that work.
Yep.
Luke still has the fastest lap of the race, lap number 6. We're working lap 10 at a 2:20.09. So putting on a good show and learning quite a bit here at Road America.
Fastest first split of the race goes to the 44 there, Sam Lockoff. So, and you can see Rocco attacking Lockoff as they go down into turn 8. So Rocco wants a little bit more, and don't be surprised to see the R6 rider try to close that gap through the carousel and maybe try to do something with Power down there in the chicane. You can see Rocco looks really fast all down through here. Let's see if he sets himself up to our right side of the screen to go up underneath Power as they come down into the chicane, Greg. He has done that. He's going to go through now. He's going to try to get that draft of Mesa all the way down through here. It's a lot harder to draft down to Canada corner because how it goes left and right. So Power, we'll see if he's able to get in that draft of Landers, but you can see Landers is trying to get into Mesa's draft to move himself forward. Power is in that draft now, but Let's see if I don't think he's going to be able to pull up. Nope, he's not quite able to get to Rocco's right side and go up underneath him. So Landers, nice work there for him. He's got to really kill these next 2 corners, try to create a little gap between him and the 68 and get close enough to Mesa for that draft.
That Yamaha R6, the benchmark of turning in on the brakes, and Rocco using it to his advantage. It's this part. It's that drive onto the front straightaway where the Yamaha R6 has been a little bit lacking compared to some of these other bikes. White flag is out. This is it. Now what's Tyler Scott? He's been hanging around the entire race. What's he going to do? Is he going to attack now? No. He's not going to do it into turn number 1. Now, Jason, I can tell you, looking at this, in split number 3, which is turn 8 through the carousel into the chicane, it's where Josh Herrin has been faster than Ty Scott. He doesn't look the most comfortable. We've seen him a couple times go through the carousel, not even with his knee on the ground. So we'll see if he's been playing there. But if you look at where they qualified, Jay, it's sector 3 where Ty Scott was losing the most time in qualifying, even though he still put it on pole.
Well, you're going to know right now, if Ty Scott makes the pass down this straightaway, he doesn't think he's going to be able to hold Herrin off, but you can see he's stayed behind him. Now Herrin's going to put the hammer down. This is kind of what you talked about, but Herrin makes a small mistake in turn 5. He wasn't quite able to get the bike turned. Look at that battle for third behind these guys. It's going crazy. Herrin's going to do everything he can to pull this gap. Ty Scott is just sitting there waiting to see what Herrin could do. Now, as they get down here into turn 8, Ty Scott's still sitting there. Nothing is really lighting up on our board except for Lockoff. Even though he's in 7th, he just ran a fast first split again.
Right, so this is the sector.
The carousel, yes.
Yeah. Can Josh get away from Ty Scott? Was he cagey? A little bit more body English from Scott. He's a lot closer as they go through the carousel. So Scott has definitely picked up some pace in the carousel during the course of this race. Now, will there be an attack into the chicane? Ty Scott's not close enough. But coming out of here, Jason, is when Scott's been able to get a couple bike lengths back on Herrin.
He's waiting. That's all he's doing is waiting. And I could see by the body language of Josh Herrin, he was doing everything he could to get into that chicane as hard as he could. He had a nice drive out. He was very patient into that right. So Herrin on the 2-bike has done everything he can on this lap. And right now, Ty Scott has been sitting there the entire race. And I don't see how the 70 doesn't win this race. Herrin's going to have to do something really special up here and getting through this section. And, you know, Herrin's riding as well as we've seen him ride in a number of years. But Ty Scott at 16, pretty savvy ride from him so far. And now we're at that run to the flag.
Here we go. Herrin's got to get the drive of his life onto the front straightaway. We go. Tyler Scott into the draft. Can he get him on the line? Herrin going through the gears. Ty Scott going wide, and there he goes right by, and Tyler Scott will win his first race in Supersport in his rookie year for the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team on the Next Generation GSXR 750 with Josh Herrin in 2nd spot.
How about 19.9 on the last lap of the race? Rocco Landers, 3rd spot for Rocco at a 220 flat.
What a recovery.
That's going to be a really nice ride from Rocco Landers there. There's going to be a lot of happy people down there for him. So we've got a Suzuki Ducati Yamaha on the podium. And Greg, look, they pulled 4.2 seconds away by the end of the race. We saw it get down to 1.6 seconds with 3 to go. And the 2 leaders dropped the hammer, 2:19s for the race winner, 2:20 flat for Josh Herrin. And then the other guys were in the 21s, Greg.
Another look at the finish, and you can see Josh Herrin's frustration with obviously the ability of that GSXR to pass him. But, hey, Tyler Scott, he knew exactly what tools he had in his toolbox, and he played it to perfection. This 16-year-old is something special, Jason.
Yeah, look, he's got a good bike, a good team. M4 wins their first race on that bike, and you can see Herrin standing up wheelies. Mesa ends up coming home in 5th. Luke Power, really nice work from him. He ends up 4th with Almeida and Lockoff 6th, 7th. We had, you know, Greg, we had 7 bikes within 4.6 seconds, and really it was closer than that because from 3rd to 7th, they were doing a lot of jostling on that last lap.
And by the way, from VIR to Road America, the GSXR 750, they looked at it and they balanced it a little bit more than the way it was at VIR. So they'll continue to look at it. But Jason, if you're a World Supersport team right now and you're looking for a great motorcycle to be on, this GSXR 750 with its throttle-by-wire system, which you have to fit onto the motorcycle, that's a good option. With all the great ability to turn and all the data of the GSXR 600 over the years, this Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki put on quite a show. Tyler Scott put on a great performance. We're going to talk to him when we get back to Road America.
Well, Robbie and Roger here with you. Our little intermission after we just saw that MotoAmerica Championship at Road America Supersport race, and Ty Scott just in that cat's bird seat, just sitting there waiting for everything to unfold just in front of him. And I don't think Josh Herrin was pushing very hard either those last 10 laps until it came to that last lap, and he was pushing for everything he had at the end, Roger. You thought that Ty Scott would have it coming down that straight, and Ty Scott did have it coming down that straight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was just sitting there. You know, it's what it looked like the previous couple laps. He would suck up real close and then just kind of, you know, stall out. So for me, I thought personally, I was telling you mid-race, Ty Scott's got this if he's that close to last lap, because I thought he was letting off. And, you know, where I seen that was when they were coming out of the chicane, and Josh Herrin would have a little bit of a gap.
And then
he could close it immediately.
Yeah.
So it just made me feel like he and also Tyler got a good run out of the last corner as well. But, you know, it was he rode a great race, Tyler Scott. He probably learned a lot and win already. He's been really impressive. That first lap, though, of Tyler Scott,
yep,
that's what did it.
Yeah.
If not, there was going to be a 7-rider battle. That was a really impressive first lap he put in right off the start and broke the pack first lap.
His dad getting down there giving him a hug as well. Congratulations, first win for Tyler Scott in the Supersport class. Let's take a look at this finish line, and you knew he had to set him up on that straightaway. He was just sitting back watching it all go down, and the sad thing is Josh knew it. He looks over, goes, dang it, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, and that he even wheelied. I thought when Tyler Scott wheelied that maybe that might have gave Josh a chance, but the thing just had too much speed coming.
You're exactly right. As he came up that hill, when he lifted that front end, because you have to chop it, and eventually it'll want to try and loop out on you. When he backed off a little bit and still grabbed it, that was a little bit surprising there. But, you know, kudos to him. I said that early on. I didn't think Ty Scott needed to lead this race, because when he was out in front and he was getting squirrely and he's getting the pressure from Josh, he needed to learn from Josh and just stay back there, take some deep breaths. And I think, as you said, that's what really paid dividends for him at the end.
Yeah, and not have to set the pace. And, you know, when you're leading when you're that young, I mean, it's easy to make a mistake whenever every time you come across this stripe and look at the board, you see +0.
Now let's talk about it. There wasn't a torrid pace they were turning out there. Sean Dillon Kelly, Richie Escalante last year, you were looking early on saying they were going 2 seconds quicker.
Yeah, but what about Rocco Landers? Again, toward the end of the race, faster than the leaders.
Just don't get it. Just don't get it. But Rocco, probably the best he could have possibly finished is third. He does finish in third. But a good run by Josh Herrin. Just didn't have it in the end, but you got to tip your hat. Ty Scott on that M4 XR Suzuki Vision wheel unit. He's the winner.
Back at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, after a margin of victory registered at 39 thousandths of a second as Tyler Scott used the draft and pass maneuver to put himself on top of the box in only his third Supersport race weekend. Let's take a look at these race results, Jason. And you can see with some great battles as Rocco Landers was nowhere to be seen the first half of the race and just shredded him. Ty Scott Herrin and Rocco Landers in third.
So it's hard work for Rocco being where he was to catch all those guys and do as good a job as he did. Look a little further back. Soltis ends up 8th, Jarrett Nassani 9th. Rounding out our top 10 was Liam Grant on another GSXR 750.
Well, let's get it right down to Hannah, who has a happy number 70.
A career first Supersport victory for the rookie Tyler Scott. Quite the race there. We saw him sitting on Josh Herrin, executed a lot of patience for someone who's just 16 years old. What were you able to learn by watching Josh that gave you the confidence that you could pull off that move at the end?
First off, the Vision Wheel M4 Suzuki worked great, all thanks to Robbie Peterson, Dustin, Barry from Oleans. It worked great the whole race, and I just kind of sat there and learned from him and then made a move at the end.
Congratulations to Tyler Scott, today's race winner.
That's we're gonna have to work on his post-race interviews.
He'll get it.
Yeah.
He's going to be up there a lot, so he's going to get those down a little bit better as he goes.
Yeah, we want to hear more of a story about what he did because it was an outstanding performance, and he mentioned it. I mean, talking about his crew, you look at the motorcycle, looks like it's perfect. All right, let's get right back down to Hannah.
Second place today goes to Josh Herrin. Josh, we saw you lead a lot of laps. You were setting the pace there. How were you able to try and balance riding defensively, knowing that Tyler was right there putting so much pressure on you throughout the race?
I wasn't really trying to ride defensively. I just wanted to try and put my head down and do as good as I could. I did everything I could. It was a hard, long race. Congratulations to these guys on the win. He rode really well, and hopefully we can come out tomorrow and put the Ducati up top. But it's been a really fun season, and happy to keep these podiums coming. And just like I said, looking forward to tomorrow. Thanks to the boys for all the hard work this weekend, and congrats to the whole M4 team. And
A good points haul for you today. Looking ahead to tomorrow, is there anything that you learned from throughout this race that'll help you improve one step higher on the box tomorrow?
I think I just might have put my head down a little bit harder in the middle of the race. I know he was sitting on me for the whole race, and I think I could have done a little bit better in the middle. But I really was mainly concerned with the guys in third, just trying to pull a gap on them. I knew that Travis was going to stay there for most of the race, and so if we can maybe push a little bit harder in the middle now that I know kind of what the pace is of the guys in third, maybe be a little bit better. But I'm happy with the result, and we got some solid points.
Congrats, Josh. Thanks, guys.
That's just a class interview. I mean, the thing is, Greg, is he's looking big picture as well. This team continues to open up their championship points lead, and he rode well today. And if there's anything that they can go back and look at tonight to make him more comfortable or do whatever to where he can get through the infield a little quicker, maybe there'll be some different strategies going on for Josh tomorrow. But let's get down to Hannah with Rocco Landers.
Third place today goes to Rocco Landers, and we weren't really sure how it was going to end there. Quite a battle going on for that third spot on the podium. How'd you come out on top?
Yeah, we made a bit of a tire gamble in the beginning. Been struggling to make this beast of a Yamaha R6 make tires last. Been tearing quite a bit, but my Dunlop tires, my Dunlop rear lasted amazing. I felt the same in the first lap as it did at the end, and couldn't ask for much more. I mean, top Yamaha, top 600. Probably the best race of my life. I was 6th or 7th there till the end, and last lap made some nice passes, and I was able to pull this off. Really happy for my team. Thanks to our friend Lou, Tom Halverson with Yamaha. Thanks for all your guys' help and also Mike Hemmelsbach with Olins gave us some awesome setup for the beginning of the race, and I'm really excited, hoping for tomorrow to be just as good as today.
Congratulations, Rocco Landers.
Don't you feel, Greg, that if we could see Rocco in that first 3 or 4 right off the bat, I mean, he's working really hard to get to where he needs to be. He's on the podium now. You can see the frustration, but I still think that if he can get a better first half of races, we can see some better results from him, or at least closer to these wins than he is currently.
Yeah, and I think a qualifying would be good for him as well, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. As for right now, this rider, Ty Scott, gets to stand on top of the podium. Our coverage continues from MotoAmerica on the other side of this commercial break.
Couple things to look at is when Rocco said just a moment ago he was the top 600. He kind of almost got that feel of when Sean Dillon Kelly and Richie Escalante were going at it, going like, that's a 636. Kind of had that feel to it. I think he feels like he did the best he could, but once again, if he can get up there at the start, it might have been a different story, but he wasn't up there at the start.
Yeah, it could have been a lot different story. I mean, at VRR, he qualified really well too, and just whatever it is, and I know that he's working on it, but we look at the lap times throughout the race, and toward the end, he was going half a second quicker than the leaders with 5 or 6 laps to go. But at that point, he's already almost 4 seconds back, and it's going to be almost impossible to make that out. But, he's super talented. He's working on it. He knows it, and I'm sure it'll get better.
Oh, and they'll say that was a veteran move, but that was a veteran fall.
I wonder if his airbag went
out
off.
of Josh Aaron. He went to do the spray and dash, and then he went to crash. Your first time to spray the champagne in any class, especially this is a premier class too. I mean, he won the junior championship at his first try last year on the KTM. Now moving to the Suzuki's, winning a race his first time. It's a proud moment for as a father as well, and his dad up there on the podium. A proud moment for a team owner, and Chris Ulrich and John Ulrich up there as well. But that bike, it's new to the class as far as the Supersport now being the oversized bike. It's not the 600, it's the 750. Kind of the guinea pigs, and I saw it right off at Atlanta. If you give them a fast straightaway, I think that bike's faster. Now, we saw Josh Hayes prove that other bikes and 600s can beat them, but that bike on the long straights looks to have an advantage. Not every track is like this, Roger.
No, not every track. I mean, A lot of tracks don't have very long straightaways, Barber, New Jersey, a lot of tracks like that, so won't come into play as much then. But, you know, this class is all new, and things are going to adjust and change throughout the year as they learn more about it, and the Suzuki 750 looks really good. Look how many of them that was in the hunt. You know, Luke Power moves to 750, and you know, he's up top 5 battling for the podium.
Where was Lockoff? I mean, I really thought Sam Lockoff would be that third rider up there in the mix, and he wasn't today. It just, I mean, sometimes you have those off days. He'll have a chance tomorrow. We know he was dealing with a leg injury at VIR. I don't know if that's still playing a factor or not, but I'm really surprised Sam Lockoff wasn't in this battle.
Yeah, I was too. It just seemed something just seemed a little bit off, really. You know, kind of fell back early and back and forth. So we know he's got the talent, but he does have that injury.
You're not the only 750 out there. Luke Power, a strong run and his best performance in MotoAmerica. Let's send it back over to Greg and Jason next door.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
To all 3 of them. If you enjoyed that, they'll be back on track tomorrow for a race.
Podium celebrations for Ty Scott happening right now. Chris Ulrich, one of the team owners, on the box with him. Look at the highlights, Jason, and it was Ty Scott who got a great launch right from the get-go.
He jumped out right to the lead with Lockoff just behind him and then Herron just behind that. And you can see 2 guys got together early, Greg. Benjamin Smith, Jason Farrell, both crashed. Both riders ended up finishing. Herron took the lead early down into the chicane. As you can see him slide up there underneath Ty Scott. At that point, Ty Scott just kind of sat on him. Stefano Mesa kept battling his way back to the front. We saw him make a couple of small mistakes, but like Mesa we know does, he gets up into the grass here. He kept on battling back from those. All the while, the 97, who you can't even see in this shot, is back there trying to get onto the back of this 4 riders with Almeida, Lockoff, Power, all battling. And Rocco Landers did a really nice job today, Greg, to get himself up onto that podium. Power and Mesa, last lap, get down into turn 5. Power runs a little bit wide, gets in there a little bit deep. And Mesa Rocco's going to work on Lockoff there. But coming across the line, it was this young man, 16-year-old Ty Scott, gets his first national victory, one that we knew was going to be coming. And he did it in a very veteran-type way of doing it.
He certainly did. Very heads-up move by Ty Scott. Let's take a look at this championship. So Rocco Landers is tied with Ty Scott for second place as Josh Herron still leads the way, 36 points ahead of his competition. Sam Lockoff, sure he's going to go back and scratch his head. Josh Hayes is in 6th, was not here racing. He's here at the racetrack coaching, but not racing this weekend. We hope to see him at a couple of races coming up. But Jay, what a move really by Tyler Scott. And what's interesting to think about, of course, is here at Road America, people are going to say, well, it's a very unique racetrack. It's 4 miles long, it's 14 corners, and you have long straightaways and all that kind of stuff. But don't you get the feeling with this 16-year-old Ty Scott that we're at the point where it's not the racetrack that's making the difference. It's Ty Scott really starting to learn and gel with this GSXR 750.
And he knows how to win because we've seen him do that in our Junior Cup category. He knows how to win. He knows how to win in different ways. He's very much a veteran at 16 years old. He has a lot of race time, a lot of race knowledge, race dirt track, like we said. And I think that this will just give him the confidence of knowing that, hey, I can run with the best. I can beat the best. And, you know, like I said, I thought Herron's interview was really, really well done. He knew he was kind of the sitting duck there, and maybe he changes his strategies for tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see.
You know, one of the things as Ty Scott was learning racing and coming up is he and his dad drove around this country racing, and they spent a lot of time talking about racing, a lot of time watching racing, and I think that Ty Scott was able to absorb all of that information. Now, he just learned from one of the best in the industry, Josh Herron. Even though Josh might be a little frustrated, the 32-year-old really he pushed hard. I mean, if you look at it, Jason, I don't think that they ever ran a 2:21 that I remember looking at. So they were within 1 second, both of them, of their best lap the entire race. That says a lot.
Well, I think that what you said during the telecast, too, is Josh Herron not sandbagging, but is he going to be able to do something at the end of the race? And you saw both of them ran their fastest lap of the race on their last one, 19.9 for Ty Scott, and Herron was there at 20 flat. So the pace at the front, it would have been interesting if it could have been faster if Ty Scott would have gone by and they could have drafted and maybe tried to redraft. Not sure if the Ducati was able to draft back past Ty Scott because we didn't get to see that. So maybe Herron just felt like his best shot was leading coming out of that last corner and just trying to do something with him. So it'll be interesting tomorrow to see how strategies change. And also, can that group behind that was battling for third the entire time, can they bridge that gap as well?
Well, that's really what I'm looking at. You look at Luke Power, the young Australian had the fastest lap of the race until the last lap of the race, where Ty Scott was able to better that and go 2:19.9. But Jason, the thing is if you're that third place group behind, don't you think you need to be focused really on laps 1 and 2 and make sure that that gap isn't created, because it kind of stayed the same up until the last lap?
Yeah, it really did. And thinking back to where the race started with Benjamin Smith and Farrell getting together, I'm not really sure what created that big gap so early. But those two guys were able to kind of just get away very, very soon. You know, Herron said there might be 3 of us at the front, and it turned out to only be 2 of them. But then that other group wasn't really letting them get away. And in the mid part of the race, it was 2/10, 3/10 quicker for that following group. So they've got to do their best not to screw around too much going down into turn 5 on the first lap tomorrow, and try to stay more in a line. And then I think that you're going to see a 5 or 6 rider battle at the front.
So the grid positions will remain the same, so Rocco Lander's going to have the same work to do, and we'll see if he's going to be able to get a better start, Jay. But I look at Sam Lockoff. He was a hot shot when we were coming into this season, the 44, the South African. He's done a good job so far, but it wasn't the best performance we've seen from the 44. What does he have to do to really rebound for tomorrow?
You know, I just think that when you look at some things, I'm really was expecting to see more out of Sam here, especially. I thought that he would be more up in that front group. I'm not exactly sure what's missing exactly. I talked to Jeremy Toy, his crew chief, before the start of that race. We had a couple good discussions about things. And there's some things that I have ran by him that I want to talk to Sam about even before I really make any mentions. And I think that with Sam, he came from winning races last year on the 600, the 750. He likes the bike. He's told me he likes the bike. But I got to just see if there's just something not like correct there for him just yet as far as the gelling part goes. And it doesn't help that he's got a very fast teammate now that has gone out and won the first race for that M4 team on that 750.
Well, you look at the Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki team, the idea cropped up over the winter time about homologating a GSXR 750, and there was a ton of work that went into it. And in only their 5th race in our 3rd event of 2022, they stand on top of the box. Can they do it again tomorrow? We can't wait to bring you Supersport race number 2 from Road America. 2 p.m. East, 11 a.m. Pacific time. We hope you'll join us. Well, for Hannah Lopin, Jason Pridmore, and our entire MotoAmerica crew, thanks for checking it out. We'll see you tomorrow for Supersport race number 2.
Congratulations.